Welcome to Hangzhou! Now, of course, I didn't have time to record what my thoughts were about Hangzhou in Hangzhou, so I'm going to have to do it here. As right when I was going to start recording, we discovered a new location to check out, and we just wanted to quickly explore that, but it actually turned out to be a little bit bigger than we anticipated. And yeah, just run out of time like we always do. And yes, I'm going to be holding the mic today. It's just it keeps falling off my t-shirt. But anyway, getting into everything that you need to know about Hangzhou. There are so many things you can do in Hangzhou. We done several things, and we took 2 trips there. One for the new year and one in April when it becomes tea season. But there are so many things we missed out on, and so many things we would like to do and go back to Hangzhou and do. But unfortunately, we didn't have time to do it this time around. When you are going to Hangzhou and planning your trip, you do have to get kind of specific with what are the things you want to do, what are the things you want to see, and kind of aim to do those. Because you could really spend like a week or 2 weeks in Hangzhou trying to explore everything, taking in the history. It's such an amazing city with such a rich history. So we wasn't able to do everything, but I'll tell you what we did do, and maybe this can give you some ideas of what you want to do and anything else you want to do that we didn't do. One of the biggest draws and attractions of Hangzhou is the Leifeng Pagoda. It's very historical. It's a very beautiful pagoda, but it has been rebuilt. Now, there are parts of the pagoda, the ancient pagoda, in there, in sort of like the basement area, in part of like the museum underneath the current pagoda, as there is some fantastic stories to learn about whilst you're there, about what happened in the past about the pagoda. Now, I'm not going to repeat those stories, as I will probably tell the story incorrectly. Now, we didn't go inside the pagoda this time. We had been inside previously. This isn't our first time to Hangzhou, but it's always going to be busy. This was a normal weekend, and it was very busy. There was a lot of people around. So we decided just to hang out on the outside and stay around Westlake, which I'll get to in a bit. Now, if you do want to go inside the pagoda, it's totally worth it. There is a museum in there. You can go high up and get some fantastic views. You can check out the architecture. However, it is going to be very full of people. So just keep that in mind before you enter. Now, continuing with the history of Hangzhou, there's Lingyin Temple, which is a very vast area. You're going to be doing a lot of walking when you are there. There are quite a few temples inside to see. There are caves inside to explore. There's this one part where everyone's trying to look up to see where this light enters the cave. It's apparently quite important. A lot of the architecture there is beautiful. It's sort of like in the mountains, in the foresty area. So it is a little bit tricky to get there. You will have to rent a bike or take a taxi to get there. The roads there are going to be very full. So there is a lot of traffic. I recommend getting here early because it is going to be incredibly crowded with a lot of people. It is maybe the main attraction outside of the pagoda. There is a lot to do and see there. So even though there's a lot of people, you can still, they're all spread out because this area is quite large. Hangzhou is a very modern city. Lots of shopping malls, lots of places to go shopping around. Has fantastic nightlife if you want to enjoy that part of Hangzhou as well, which is easy to find in the city. And one of the more historical parts of the city is its old street, which is called Hefang Street. Here you'll see lots of shops selling like traditional clothing. A lot of the architecture kind of remains. A lot of it is also very new. It's a very big old street, so the streets are quite wide, not so close together. It is quite long, so there are plenty of places to shop, whether modern stores or if you want to get like some milk tea or bubble tea, or if you just want to do some shopping for like figurines that are there as well as buying the famous tea. that comes from Hangzhou, or just traditional Chinese cultural stuff that is also sold there. But it is a cool place to explore either in the daytime or the nighttime. There's also some traditional food there or some street food you can eat there, so it's a very cool place to hang out. Now West Lake is kind of like where Hangzhou is designed around. It's got the mountainous areas on sort of like the southwest and the west side of the city, and it's got the actual city on sort of like the east, northeast kind of side. And the West Lake is huge. It'll take you a long time to walk around it, and it's a fantastic walk if you do want to walk around it. When I first came to China in like 2000 or 2013, I think it was the first time I ever came to China, I was on a tour and we cycled around the Hangzhou Lake. It did take a while, but it was a beautiful cycle. There are loads of bikes you can rent to cycle around, or you can walk around if you want to do that as well. You'll spend part of it walking around the edge between the lake and the city, and you'll spend half of it walking between mountainous areas and the lake. So both views are fantastic, and you can take boats onto the lake, or you can just sit down, relax, and find some very nice spots to chill. Now, we have obviously been to Hangzhou before, so we were just looking for like some nice spots to take some cool photos, take some cool videos, and sort of chill. It's like some parts of it are lit up very beautifully at night, where you can get some nice images, and it's also just nice to sit there during the day and take in the sights and just have a nice relaxing day by the lake. You can get some cool views from the pagoda. I think if you take if you take a boat into the lake, you can probably see the pagoda better. You'll also find street food there. You'll also find people playing music. Lots of couples also taking photos for weddings as well. Will also all kind of be happening around the lake. It is kind of the center of Hangzhou and kind of like the life of the city. Now, if you love tea as much as I do, then you're going to really enjoy the Tea Museum. The Tea Museum has a lot of facts and a lot of information about tea around the world. Even learning the fact that some places call it cha, like here in China, and then other places call it tea, and how the world has kind of been split between these two words. So even around the world, you're either looking at asking for a cup of cha or a cup of tea in most places. So that's I thought that was very cool how this one word hasn't really changed that much even around the world. It's just got like two ways of saying it. But anyway, it's very historical. You can see a lot of development from tea companies, and you can also see where tea is grown. It's definitely worth a trip to the museum if you are really interested in tea, or you just want to try some fresh tea from the area. And the fresh tea is done around April time. So we were high up in the mountainous areas of Hangzhou during the time we were visiting in April, and we was around Longjing Village. Longjing is the name of the tea here in Hangzhou. It's obviously named after the village and sort of the area in which it is planted and picked. You can walk amongst the tea, you can walk amongst the fields, you can walk amongst the layers where all the tea is being grown. You can even pay to have like a little pot where you can sort of pick your own tea as well, and then I guess take that home and drink it. Well, mix it with water first, of course. And there are so many benefits to doing this around April time. You're going to have the tea at its freshest. Now, we did stop by a cafe to have some incredibly fresh tea. They said it had only been picked within the last few days. So we had the freshest tea I have ever tasted. However, in this time, it is also going to be incredibly expensive. So also be prepared to pay the most you have ever paid for tea during this time. But you can get some fantastic photos. You can get some fantastic video for Instagram or for anywhere else you like to post videos and images. And there's also a lot more to do in Longjing Village than just looking and walking around the tea. We took a short hike through the Misty Forest, but there were other hikes in the area. Now, I had only recently been recovering from pneumonia, so we didn't want to do the hike that goes high up into the mountains, so we stayed the one that's quite flat and walked through the Misty Forest, which was a very cool little walk. There was lots of streams we had to walk over. Sometimes there were quite big lines, and there were a few arguments as people were trying to cross the streams on the stepping stones. But it was all generally good fun to chill and watch this play out as we would then walk across the stream. And most of the Misty Forest is just filled with like more tea bushes. You walk along, and sometimes you can get a really strong smell of tea. When the bushes are on either side of you and you're walking through, you can really smell that, and it's a really nice, pleasant smell. And then when you get to the end of this hike in the Misty Forest, you come across this very beautiful waterfall. And this beautiful area, which has, they've planted some nice flowers around it, and there's a small little pond, or it's sort of like a small pond or a lake that you can chill out for a bit, relax, maybe buy tea or maybe buy some food, and then continue on your way, whether you go back to Longjing Village or if you're staying somewhere else. And this was the point in which I then wanted to record all my thoughts on Hangzhou. And then just behind the hotel we were staying in, we found Old Longjing, which we didn't know was there. And we was like, oh, this is interesting. What's Old Longjing? Maybe it's just another part of the town. So we just went there for a quick walk and just to see what was there. And it turned out that actually this was the original site of where the first tea was grown. And there's a lot of cool history inside this area where they talk about how one of the emperors from China wanted to discover where Longjing tea came from. He came to visit Hangzhou. He came to this area to discover Longjing tea. So the tea here is even more expensive. However, I'm pretty sure it probably tastes the same. It's just that this is the original place where they initially started growing Longjing tea. And then obviously it expanded pretty much to all over the mountain, as everywhere in this part of Hangzhou just seems to be growing tea. But again, it's like a museum, and they are also still growing tea there. Now, we didn't drink tea from this specific location, but I can't imagine it really tastes any different. It's just that, yes, this is the beginning of Longjing tea. It's definitely worth checking out if you're coming to Longjing Village. This is all we had time to do, and I feel like we done a lot in Hangzhou, and there are still so many things we missed out on. There are so many more like old ancient architectural buildings that we wanted to see. Some that are more modern, that have been designed to look like they from ancient China, but have been built more recently. And then there's stuff like the wetlands they've got there. So there was literally so many more things we wanted to do. We just didn't have time. So when you are coming here, my recommendation for how long it is you should stay here in Hangzhou is like a week if you want to do everything. Most people are most likely going to stay for maybe 2 nights. So try to fit in as many things as you want to in that time. If you want to do everything in Hangzhou, then you are going to need about 7 days. Now, we felt that our 2 days, so we had 2 trips here, and they were both one trip was for 2 nights and one trip was for 1 night. So we had 3 nights here in Hangzhou, and we managed to get a lot done. We managed to see a lot. And we feel like we've had a fantastic experience here in Hangzhou. So 3 nights is fantastic, but if you've got less time than that, there's still plenty of things you can fit in that small space of time. The more time you get, obviously the better. Hangzhou is very easy to get to. It's about an hour's train ride from Shanghai. There is an international airport just across a river where a metro line can take you into the city. And I'm sure there are trains coming from all other locations as well. Hangzhou is a major city. It's got millions of people living here. So the routes connecting it are very well done. Of course, driving here would also be an option as well. Getting around Hangzhou is mixed because it has this mountainous side, which just has a few roads, as the mountain is kept quite clear, it seems, which is very good. They haven't just overbuilt roads there. And then it is also a major city, so it has a metro system, which is fantastic. So if you're staying in the city area, you're going to have no problems getting around on the metro. It's very easy to get around. When you're going in to explore the mountainous areas, whether or not you're just going to, say, Longjing Village or another village around this area, that isn't the only village in the mountains or where the tea plantations are. There are other villages. Or if you're going to Lingyin Temple, you are a little bit more restricted with how you get there. Now, you can rent a bike. There are so many bikes you can rent. There are blue bikes you can rent. There are yellow bikes you can rent. I think I saw some green bikes you can rent as well. So it is possible to cycle on these roads to these locations, which actually could become the quickest way because traffic builds up on these roads very quickly, as you can take a taxi there. A lot of people are driving to these locations and a lot of people are getting taxis to these locations. We took a taxi and we did get stuck in some traffic, as is expected. You'll need to decide which is the best way for you, which leads me into where to stay. I do highly recommend staying in, spending at least 1 night in Longjing Village or village around that area, so you can wake up early and see the fields around sunrise, or just see the fields when the plantation when there is no one around. And that's where you can get the best photos and the best video. And you can walk around and smell the fresh air and smell the tea and really enjoy your time there. And it's also just nice staying in a more local village where you can see more of the traditional side of Hangzhou as well. And I also recommend staying in the city itself because there's so much to see. The pagoda is right next to the city. The old street is right at the edge of the city as well. And there's so much shopping areas, so many food areas to eat, and the metro system is great to get around. So spending at least one night in each location, or spending 2 nights in one location and 1 night in the other, is very good. Hotel prices are what you would expect for a major city to be. During the week, they can be a little bit cheaper, to maybe just a couple of 100 RMB, to the weekend where the price maybe goes up 200, 300 RMB to like maybe 700 RMB for a good hotel. Staying in the local village is going to be obviously there aren't so many hotels if you're going into the village itself. And there are only so many hotels that accept foreigners as well. There may be more hotels, but they are specifically only for Chinese citizens. Whereas hotels for foreigners might be a little bit less. So make sure you book early and with plenty of time. The last part, what to eat and drink in Hangzhou. The number one thing is Longjing tea. Try and find it somewhere. Like if you're going to somewhere like Starbucks, you're probably not going to be drinking Longjing tea. They have their contracts with other places. But somewhere around, especially in the villages, in the mountains, they definitely have Longjing tea. And I'm sure you can definitely find it in the shops all around Hangzhou. Places are selling the local tea. So maybe pick up a tin of local tea, or find a more local coffee shop where they are selling Longjing tea to try the local tea that was grown just within a few miles. Now, Hangzhou food is very famous. You'll get Hangzhou style restaurants all over China. I've seen plenty in Shanghai and here in Kunshan and Suzhou. You will get Hangzhou restaurants, or some of the more popular items to try in these restaurants would be beggar's chicken. Comes as a whole chicken, cooked in whichever style or way it's done, and it's very tasty. The meat just falls off the bone. When I got it in Shanghai, it was very different to how I got it in Hangzhou. When I got it in Shanghai, it was like a cauldron. It was just full of smoke. When I got it in Hangzhou, it was just delivered to us with no smoke. Fried shrimp. I'm not sure if these come from Westlake or not, but it was all over Hangzhou, and it's always in the Hangzhou style restaurants. Shrimp is very yummy and very delicious, so these ones tasted fantastic. Now, we do believe we managed to get some Westlake fish. I don't think this is everywhere, and maybe we didn't, but the restaurant was selling it as Westlake fish. So if you can try some local fish from the lake, the West Lake, then you're getting a real taste of Hangzhou. Fish that have just been swimming in the massive lake here in Hangzhou. Definitely worth trying the local fish, and also fish in the style of sweet and sour. Sweet and sour is very popular in food from Hong Kong as well as here in China. And sweet and sour fish, and especially if it's sweet and sour local fish, is even better to try. They also sell a form of small red meat, or Hongxiao Rou, which is a pork with a huge lump of fat on top and a delicious pile of meat underneath. I don't eat the fat, but the meat is sweet and very delicious. You can get this many places, but here in Hangzhou, every time I got it, they give it to you as one big square of meat. And there are lots of other dishes here in Hangzhou that's more like Hangzhou style. There's plenty of food to try. If you go to a local Hangzhou restaurant, we got like a vegetable soup as well as another fish dish to try. So there's going to be endless things you can try here in Hangzhou. If you're coming to China, I would put Hangzhou very high on the list of places to visit. Most likely, if you're visiting China, you're coming into Shanghai. And it's an hour's journey from there. It's definitely worth visiting. This place is very historical, a lot of great things to do, a lot of great things to try that we would associate with China. So it is a fantastic cultural experience to come to Hangzhou and experience a lot of things that we would usually associate with China, so like tea and the food that they eat, along with the architectural buildings, the beautiful lake and the mountains and the scenery around. Hangzhou is definitely a great experience if this is going to be your once-in-a-lifetime trip here to China. I'd definitely put it very high on the list of cities you should come to. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about Hangzhou. Highly recommend it. But anyway, as we say in China, bye-bye.